Hey guys, Joe Bernard here. Welcome back to my channel and greetings from Wakanda. I am ready to get into some pop talk and I hope you are too. So of course, I have moved to Wakanda. I don't know about you, but honey, after seeing Black Panther, I have been revived, reinvigorated. All of the things that I needed to just spark the fire that was already burning in me, I got it from this movie. So we're gonna start by just talking a little bit about the movie, my thoughts. I went to a premiere event, red carpet. Well, honey, I was fashionably late, so I did not make the carpet, but I'll put up a picture quickly so you guys can see what I wore. I had a great time just with great people. It was like over 400 of us. We rented out 2 movie theaters with some members from my church. And it was a great time. Such an inspirational movie, great for the culture. So you know, a lot of times like movies get hyped up and then it's like, okay, all the hype for nothing. Honey, they did not hype this movie up enough. I was thrilled. There was not a moment in there at all that I was like, they didn't need that. The movie was fabulously done. And you know what? It's broken the box offices open. Like, the box offices couldn't handle the magnitude of people that just were out for this movie across the world. Like, largest movie ever to open in February. Over $200 million nationally, and internationally it's almost over $400 million. And when they say an all-black cast cannot sell out or translate into international markets, just say 2 words to them: Wakanda forever. Okay? Because people really have this idea that, you know, an all-black cast can't sell. And they shattered, when I tell you shattered, all of those pre-existing ideas, gone. Like, come on. Michael B. Jordan, Denai Guerrera, Winston Duke, Letitia Wright, Lupita Nyong'o, Angela Bassett, Chadwick Boseman, Forrest Whitaker. I mean, the cast was phenomenal. Daniel Kaluuya. Letitia was the breakout star. She was so funny. If you haven't seen the movie, you've got to go see it. I mean, and if you haven't seen it yet, you should be embarrassed at this point because, listen, you are missing out. She was a breakout star. Shuri was her name in the movie. I loved her. I love that she was the forefront of technology. She was a face of technology, which is great for young Black girls to see that I can be a whiz, like a science whiz, and it's cool. Very innovative. I wish that vibranium was a real thing because, honey, I need some. Like, that thing was phenomenal. Now, Denai Guerrera's character, Okoye, yes, General. I mean, girl with the, gave me chills. She was phenomenal. Nakia, who's Lupita's character, just kind of drifting. She was a spy for a while. And, you know, Black Panther's long lost love. He was so infatuated with her. Okoye had to, you know, get him together when they went to get her, like, don't freeze. And guess what he did? He froze. It was just beautiful to see. And what I loved about it is that even though you could tell that she was his love interest, it wasn't over sexualized. There was nothing just like vulgar. I mean, the movie was done so beautifully, so beautifully. I want to see it again because there were so many things, you know, of course, with heightened moments, people were talking and laughing and just certain things I didn't hear. But I really want to see it again. But there were just some key statements made, some things that I really noticed, like the fact that, of course, Black women were at the forefront of the movie, like the Dora Milaje women, you know, they just were the Wakanda warriors, which I am now one of. Okay, I've yet to shave my head because I've got to get permission from the hubby, but let me tell you, honey, once I get the go ahead, hair is gone. I got my sword in the back. I am ready. I was having a few conversations with people after because the movie is definitely a conversation piece. But in talking with different people, I said, you know what? A lot of times movies are an actual depiction of what's going on in the culture, and the fact that Black women were represented so powerfully and we were really at the forefront of the movie is an actual depiction of what's going on in the culture right now. If you look at statistics, Black women are the most educated, right? Achieving high levels of success, getting their master's, their doctorate, they're entrepreneurs. Their businesses are the fastest growing in the country right now. So to be represented in such a powerful manner was great for us to see, to be lifted up that high. It's definitely necessary, and it was just beautiful. It was lovely to gain the recognition, like, you guys are really doing it. We need you. You got our backs. You hold it together, and you're super valuable. The other thing in the movie was just the juxtaposition between Africans and African Americans. Like, that's a very real thing, and there are still some tensions in the interactions, and you could see that between the cousins T'Challa and Killmonger. Now, I am telling you, I was here for the fashion all day. Can you see my necklace? Oh my gosh, it was kind of reminiscent of what Lupita's hair looked like. Oh, I want to walk around like that all the time. Honey, they have changed the Halloween game. I am going to be dressing up this year just so I can be Wakanda-esque. It is just, why is that not a real place? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's real because I moved there, like I told you guys. But I loved a lot of the lines, like, hey, colonizer, you know, like, what if we really walked around? See, that could get us into trouble, because if we really walked around saying some of those things, or what if we walked around when, like, white people were saying, like, inappropriate things, or, you know, just like, we don't want to hear you right now, and we started barking. So that would be funny too. So my husband and I were laughing earlier because I was like, we live on a colonized floor apparently, because like we're the only black people here, so we totally are outnumbered. But there were just so many funny parts. And let me tell you, Letitia Wright is a breakout star. She's represented the Caribbean, Guyana. Honey, I'm Trinidadian, so I'm here for it all day. And speaking of Trinidad, Winston Duke, you better oh, listen, everybody's going crazy over him. Crazy, crazy, crazy. He is like the new Idris. And let me tell you, now that Idris is off the market, honey, because he got engaged to Sabrina Dari. I don't think I'm saying that right, but I'm not African, so y'all gonna have to excuse me. But she's 29 years old. She is a former beauty queen, and he's 45 years old. So Idris, you have been replaced. Winston Duke has taken your spot, and it's like you're never even on the scene because women have moved on. See, the thing about Hollywood is that once you become attached, like, of course people get married and stuff, but it just wasn't his career. You know, he'd been married before, and actually the relationship went south because he was building his career. And if a little inside tip on Hollywood, when you are a young rising star, I mean, he wasn't that young, but he was, you know, like a sex symbol, essentially, eye candy, all of that. And so when you are that, they don't typically like you to be associated with a significant other, a family, because your audience is predominantly women that like the idea that you are free, single, and disengaged, and they might have a shot, even though they don't. They just like to portray that kind of, you know, idea, essentially. And so it just divorced his ex-wife because it just wasn't working out. Like, he wasn't able to do red carpets with her and all that stuff. But you know what? He's 45 years old, and he's getting up there in age. And now I think it's an appropriate time for him to really settle down. And he's been replaced anyway. Winston Duke has taken over his spot. So I know that's going to be the new rave. Everyone, now he's on the scene. You know, I mean, we got good products in Trinidad. All right now. Yes, Winston. Now everybody's going to want to go to Trinidad and Tobago to find them a husband, child, because that man had stole the show in the movie as well. It was just really well done. I mean, I can't say enough about it. I could talk for a whole hour, but y'all are going to get bored. So I won't do it. But I love the movie. Let me know if you guys saw the movie, what your thoughts were. Leave comments of things that you wore, because I would love to be all up in your fashion moments. Switching gears to moments that were not very happy and tragic, in fact, were the shootings that took place in Parkland, Florida. Now, this young man who used to attend the high school in Parkland, Florida, he went there and shot up the school. For the purposes of this video, I'm actually not going to mention his name. I don't even remember it because it's just not something that I want to give him any more airtime. I don't think he deserves the right to be known. He had aspirations of becoming a school shooter, and so I don't want to give him that that justice by making him popular. So anyway, moving forward with the story, he went to his former high school and shot up the place. 17 people were killed, students and teachers, and about 19 or so were injured. Now, the interesting thing about this story, there are so many different components in this that were just like, wow. For example, the fact that they actually had a drill that day. Like, they have been consistently preparing their students for things like this, for shootings, for what if someone comes here and tries to disrupt our whole school unit, right? And so they did that day. They did have a drill. And then he pulled the fire alarm, and they thought that a second drill was happening. But lo and behold, they had no idea that what they had just prepared for was actually happening. It was actually happening. Now, students ran out, going out like normal for the drill, and then realized very quickly that this is not a drill, this is real life. And so they were running back to the classrooms as he was opening fire, and several teachers and sports coaches put their lives on the line essentially to shield these students. They hid in closets, in the classrooms, and all that stuff. Now, when I listened to the list of the students and they talked about the ages, it was just mainly like 14 and 15-year-olds. Like, they had some 17-year-olds and 16-year-olds, and I'm not diminishing that, but I'm just thinking about, like, wow, just young lives were lost. Death is imminent for everybody. We understand that as a people, we live, we die, right? And it could be caused by anything. But my issue with this is just how egregious these acts are. And as a country, well, specifically where the president is concerned, he wants to build these walls and keep the people out that are supposedly terrorists and all that stuff. But if we want to really talk candidly about this, all of the school shootings that occurred were not done by any outsiders. It's actual homegrown terrorists that have committed these crimes, these egregious acts against children and teachers at school. Now, the other thing that happens as well is all of them leave the scene in handcuffs. They're alive to tell their story, to go to jail, to be sentenced. And then when you take into consideration Black men who comply with the law if they're pulled over, right? They get when you looked at the way they arrested this young man, it was so peaceful. There was no obstruction. There was not a fight. It was easy, right? And why is it that way when he just killed 17 people and injured over 19 more? Why is there such a disparity in the way that he's dealt with versus someone like an Eric Garner, who's just selling cigarettes on the street, and he was wrestled to the floor, choked to death, basically, screaming that he couldn't breathe, and no one cared. And he left the scene dead. He left the scene dead for something simple as selling cigarettes on a sidewalk, and this young man killed 17 people, injured several more, and he's alive and well. Taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill for his stay in prison for however long they give him. I don't think they're going to give him the death penalty. He might just get life in prison. Okay, so for as long as he lives, the taxpayers' money will have to pay for that. What is wrong? There's just something wrong with this story. There's something wrong with this picture. And I hate to have to make things a black and white thing, because it's just not necessarily always the case. But when you put these two things up against each other, Black men being gunned down over small things, traffic stops, selling cigarettes illegally, Black men and women, because let's not forget Sandra Bland. What happened with her? You know what I mean? Versus these young white boys who keep going to schools or churches and shooting up the joint, and they are arrested very peacefully, no trouble, and they live to tell their story. Whenever things like this happen, it doesn't just affect the families of the people that are lost. It affects all of us. We can become very desensitized to things like this. Like, oh yeah, another one. Oh yeah, another one. Every time someone's killed somewhere, it's like, oh, okay, keep moving. You change the channel, And here's the other thing that's crazy about this story is the fact that this guy, like I mentioned before, his goal in life was to become a mass shooter, okay? And he stated that in a comment on a YouTube channel. And the guy who owns the channel, he does like bail bondsman stuff. He did his due diligence. And he reported this to the FBI. They came to his home, they confiscated whatever they could, and there was nothing done after that. They didn't follow up with him. And now the FBI is claiming that they couldn't find, who left a comment. The FBI, are you seriously, with all the level of intelligence that you guys have at your disposal, you could not find this young man? And look at what's happened. And the other thing people are saying, like, oh, when you see something, say something. That's very much a New York saying, especially after the terror attacks of 9/11 and on the subways and stuff. They tell you, if you see a bag that, no one's watching or whatever, they came up with a slogan: if you see something, say something. Guess what? Many people saw and said what they needed to say about this young man who committed the shootings, and it was not taken into consideration. So here it is, the system failed. And it's so unfortunate, because it's not like, they did the necessary investigations to make sure that what people were saying about this young man was true, and then they would watch him. Like, okay, even for the FBI, seriously, if you get a tip on something like this, like if it was Al Qaeda or ISIS or something, they will be on it. They will be able to find them and all that stuff. But right here, this guy is saying, he wants to be a homegrown, school shooter, mass shooter, and you weren't able to do anything about it. And now people had to suffer because of your incompetence, essentially, because that's really what it comes down to. Why wouldn't you have taken this seriously as you would if there was a tip from like ISIS, let's say? You know what I mean? So I don't know. My heart goes out to the families. It's very sad that this has to continue happening. The president did not address guns in his whatever it is he said to the family. He just talked about like mental illness, blah blah blah. Listen, as my husband said, you can't be that mental if you can go buy a gun, think it through, you're gonna go pull the alarm. Like, your brain works just fine enough to be able to plan out this whole massacre. So I don't think it's a mental illness issue. And I'm not saying that you can't have mental illnesses and not be able to function outside of that. But what I am saying is, if you've got the capacity to really think this through, then I don't think we should only consider the mental illness component of it, because clearly you function well enough to go through with these things. Now, gun control is something that is necessary. It's necessary, and I don't know how many more school shootings have to happen for it to be like, okay, guys, as a country. I mean, you don't hear these things in other developed, progressive countries, right? Like America the Great is supposed to be like leading the way for other people to follow. And guess what? No one's following this. No one's following this. You don't hear this in China. You don't hear this in Australia. You don't hear this in Canada, right there. Honey, you don't even hear this in Mexico, okay? And they have like gang lords and all that stuff, but they're not going to schools to shoot it up. Come on, something's got to be done about this. Why are such mass weapons, like these are combat weapons that are available to mere civilians? Why? All of the school shootings that have occurred have been the same gun has been used. Why hasn't anything been done about it? Well, something that was done over the weekend that was terrible, not as bad as a school shooting that took place in Parkland, Florida, but it was bad. It was real bad, and it was Fergie singing the national anthem. Honey, she messed it up. Now, she's all Fergie-licious, and she tried to add some funk on it, but she messed it up. She messed it up real bad. And so that is like she is like the butt of all the jokes this week, okay, because she sang the national anthem at the All-Star game down in LA. And, typically the national anthem could be a little dry. It's just not the liveliest thing to sing. And that's understandable. So sometimes people do want to get creative and add a little extra to it. But she was over extra. Like, that was way too much, Fergie. I mean, we were looking at it because we watch basketball in this house, so anything basketball related, our TV is on. And my husband and I looked at each other like, what is she doing? Who okayed that? Like, your team doesn't love you. Like, no one said to you, what, Fergie, that's a little bit too much Fergalicious going on for the national anthem. Take it down some. Nope, they didn't. And she went there and embarrassed herself on national TV. Matter of fact, international TV, because the world was looking. She couldn't steal the shine away from the fact that Team LeBron won. Okay, people got over it real quick after the game started, though they were laughing. Like, the players were laughing because they've got to stand there and, like, you know, really, like, pay respect to the country by listening to the national anthem. But when it is hilarious, like, they couldn't keep themselves together. They were really just laughing. You saw Jimmy Kimmel. You saw all kinds of other celebrities that were courtside and in the arena just laughing because it was funny. What was not funny is what I noticed about how LeBron chose his team. I was like, okay, sir, I see you. So Team LeBron won the game because he was the captain and Steph Curry was also the captain. And traditionally, the way that they would choose the teams, if you don't know anything about basketball, is it would be the East against the West. The captains were East versus West, but the players were all mixed up. So they gave them the opportunity to just choose players at their free will. It didn't have to be from a specific East or West conference. Now, LeBron had the first choice, and guess what he did? He chose Kevin Durant on his team, okay? And then he chose Russell Westbrook, who is a former team player of Kevin Durant, and their relationship is not the best because of the way Kevin decided to leave OKC. Then he also had Kyrie on his team, and him and Kyrie's relationship are not the best either because of how Kyrie decided to leave Cleveland. But I thought that was very mature of him. He was like, you know what, I'm trying to win. Like, and then when your goal is to win, because a lot of times in the NBA, there's this whole thing of like guys not wanting to play with each other because they don't like each other. Listen to me. This is your job. Do you work with people that you like all the time? I'm asking you. Do you work with people that you like all the time? What's your answer? You probably going through your head right now like, I could think of 5 people right now, including my manager and my supervisor, that I do not like. But does that stop you from doing your job? No, because you need to get paid. So I feel like the NBA, y'all just need to play, get your money because you're getting a lot of it, and then go home. You don't have to be friends. But anyway, they played the game. It was a beautiful display of basketball. And speaking of display, honey, Quincy Jones is out here displaying everybody's business. Dead, whether you dead or alive, honey, he is telling the world what he knows about you. So Quincy Jones, you know, he did this one long interview about how many girlfriends that he has, right? And then he said he got like 22 girlfriends in different area codes, and they're all very young. Then he did this other interview with Vulture magazine where he is talking about everybody's business except his own now, where he is saying that Michael Jackson was a thief, and he stole Billie Jean from Donna Summers, and he didn't want to pay people for other songs that he stole, and then, you know, he was addicted to that very drug, propofol, that killed him. He's saying that the Beatles were not good musicians. He's saying that he knows why Hillary didn't win the election because of all the backdoor dealings and whatever. So he's got a lot to say. So people are like, man, he is really out here talking. Is he dying? Because he is 84. Oh, he also said that he used to date Ivanka Trump, and she's got the most beautiful legs that he ever seen. And this was 12 years ago. And Ivanka is in her 30s. So if this was... okay. A part of me is like, all right, you know, spill the tea. Let us know what's good. Like, Quincy, because you got details, right? He's in the ends in all kinds of industries, not just music. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, it's like, okay, let dead people rest in peace. Like, leave Michael alone. He's already gone. And there are some talks about, like, why is he saying all of these things? Because he's not talking about himself and the fact that he might have dibbled and dabbled. Because he's saying that Marlon Brando and Richard Pryor had relations, and that Marlon Brando would basically just kind of sleep with anybody, sleep with a mailbox if it moved, okay? And so people are saying, well, Quincy, you also are kind of sketchy too, when it comes to things like that. So why are you not putting your business out here? Anyway, I just thought I would tell you guys about it because it's just been such a hot button topic, and people are like, Quincy, you need to be quiet. Maybe you just should have wrote a letter. You know, like, if you feel like you're gonna die, sir, you probably just should have wrote a letter and, you know, tell them open it at your funeral or something. But the fact that you're still alive making these blatant statements to the world, I mean, you know what, people can talk and say whatever they want. If this is information that he's privy to, and if he feels like the people need to know, so then he told us. And whatever consequences come with it, because, you know, every action has a consequence. There's repercussions for all things that you do, whether good or bad. So we'll see what comes out of this for him. But somebody that's coming out real good is Cardi B. And let me tell you, she was down at All-Star Weekend as well, having a blast, dancing to her own music. Now, I'm not necessarily a Cardi B fan, but I do appreciate how she's a woman making her way in the industry. You know what? She came from a particular background, and now she is a rap star, essentially, you know, and kudos to her. She's making it. But, you know, there are rumors swirling around about her possibly being pregnant. She says that she's not. She says that she's just been eating and to leave her, let her fat in peace. And I agree. People all have all kinds of comments to say when your belly start getting a little out there. Like, listen, can I eat? Can I eat? I mean, she's making a little bit more money, honey. So she wants to eat. Leave her alone. You know, they got Offset out asking him if she's pregnant. He was like, I only got 3 children and I don't know about a 4th. So no, she's not. And this would not be the best time for her to be pregnant, actually, because she's got she's headlining in Coachella. She has a lot of other deals that she's doing, and that's money that you don't want to mess up. So it's unfortunate that women kind of have to put their bodies and their lives on hold because of their careers. That's just the nature of the beast. And right now, I mean, she just can't be pregnant because that money's just going to go down the drain. Thank you guys for tuning in today. That is all the pop talk that we have. Let me know your feedback. I want to hear what you wore to Black Panther. I want to see what you wore to Black Panther. I want to have a conversation with you about Black Panther and all of the other topics that I discussed in this video. Please comment. Let me know your thoughts. Of course, I want you to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell so you would know when I post new videos. And as always, be well. Until next time, darlings. Ciao.